Welcome to tonight's debate on whether wealthy countries should offer short-term public incentives for artists to collaborate with sports leagues to boost youth engagement and local economies. The issue sits where culture meets competition, where a concert and a kickoff might share the same stage and the same city block. Supporters say quick grants and bonuses can spark new audiences, energize local businesses, and make stadium nights feel like citywide festivals. Critics worry about public money chasing hype, creating unfair advantages, and setting a precedent that outlasts the promised short term. Our youth team takes the affirmative, arguing yes to targeted incentives with clear goals and end dates. Our elder team takes the negative, arguing no to using public funds for collaborations that private partners could finance themselves. We will begin with opening cases from each side, starting with the affirmative. Affirmative team, the floor is yours for your constructive case.
We ask wealthy countries to use short-term incentives as a spark, not a crutch, because a focused push can connect art with sport and reach teens who are tuning out.
When music, design, and storytelling meet the schedule of a major league, we see new eyes in the stands and new feet on Main Street, and that is measurable in ticket stubs and tills.
This policy is time-bound, transparent, and competitive, with open applications, capped grants, and clear metrics like youth attendance, local revenue lift, and participation in workshops.
Think of a 3-game artist-in-residence series that turns pre-game plazas into safe, supervised creativity zones, where teens meet mentors and discover skills that last longer than a score.
Public money here buys coordination that markets underprovide, aligning schools, clubs, venues, transit, and small businesses for a short window of maximum impact.
It also buys inclusion, because without a public signal, the collaborations skew to the already famous, while grants can require representation, local hiring, and free community passes.
The short-term frame prevents bloat by forcing sunset clauses, independent audits, and a hard stop if targets are missed.
The return is not only pounds or dollars, but also trust, as young people feel invited into civic life through culture they recognize rather than lectures they ignore.
Sports already mobilize logistics, media, and volunteers at scale, and pairing that engine with artists multiplies the reach of health campaigns, literacy drives, and creative apprenticeships.
If we can move the needle on teen well-being, part-time jobs, and after-school engagement in a single season, the opportunity cost of doing nothing looks irresponsible.
Critics say private sponsors can handle this, yet private deals optimize for brand fit, not broad access, while targeted public criteria make access the point.
Because the grants are short, small, and tied to outcomes, taxpayers are not buying a luxury, they are buying a lever that moves a heavy system.
Thank you, affirmative, and now we invite the negative team to present their constructive case.
Public funds should not underwrite entertainment mashups when roads, clinics, and classrooms face queues, shortages, and urgent repairs.
Calling it short-term does not remove the hook, because once councils taste headline events, they keep paying to avoid backlash when the lights go dark.
If collaboration is profitable, leagues and labels can pay, and if it is not profitable, taxpayers should not be the safety net for marketing experiments.
We have seen promised benefits that cluster near stadiums, while distant neighborhoods watch their buses run late and their parks crumble.
Measurement is not a magic wand, since metrics can be gained with discounted tickets, brief pop-up jobs, and surveys that capture novelty rather than durable change.
Short-term grants still displace attention and staff time in city halls, and the quiet cost is the work that never gets done, because a festival needed permits and escorts.
Once government becomes a routine partner in hype cycles, it blurs the line between public service and promotion, which weakens trust when priorities later shift.
Real inclusion is funded by steady arts education, community centers, and fair wages, not by flash collaborations that leave behind banners and broken promises.
If youth engagement is the goal, invest directly in youth leagues, libraries, makerspaces, and transit passes, which stretch every pound or dollar without underwriting celebrity.
Finally, opportunity costs are moral costs, because every grant to a halftime show is a grant not given to a shelter, a clinic, or a scholarship.
Affirmative, you have the mic for a targeted strike.
Let us be clear that short bursts of funding can flip the script for teens who feel priced out and talked over. because a limited incentive tells them this space is also theirs.
Negative, your turn to parry.
A policy that buys applause on Friday and leaves unpaid maintenance on Monday is not stewardship, it is spectacle governance.
Negative, may now press the attack.
If wealthy countries want outcomes, they should fund durable arts education and youth sport directly, not subsidize league content that already fills prime time.
Affirmative, defend your ground.
Direct funding and catalytic incentives are complements, not rivals, because the grant unlocks partnerships at a scale classrooms cannot reach in a single season.
Negative attack with a paired case, leader, and supporter.
Public policy must serve the invisible citizen, not the loudest event, and incentives skew the agenda toward what trends rather than what heals.
The ledger shows that event weeks redirect policing, transit, and sanitation, while city workers postpone routine services, which is a silent tax on residents who never attend.
Even when grants are capped, the administrative lift multiplies hidden costs across agencies that were never built to be promoters.
When the banners come down, neighborhoods outside the footprint ask why their council office went dark early for a parade that did not hire them.
Order, order. Thank you. Negative, now over to affirmative for a paired offensive.
The premise that incentives equal hype ignores design, because we propose open calls, youth quotas, and audit trails that prioritize underserved districts.
Our pilot in a single term can require local apprentices, capped ticket prices, and pop-up stages in transit hubs, so benefits travel where buses actually stop.
Short-term does not mean shallow when the grant demands skills workshops, portfolio reviews, and micro-internships linked to game day logistics.
If the city can move thousands to a stadium safely, it can also move hundreds to a safe, supervised art lab one block over, and that is a smart use of a ready engine.
Affirmative. Thank you. Negative may respond with a two-voice defense, answer and counter.
You promise audits and quotas, yet every additional checkbox adds overhead, and overhead is itself a public cost that rarely makes the poster.
Why should a bus driver in a far district pay for a music stage outside a stadium when her route already runs late after night games?
Answer plainly whether you would pause a grant if private sponsors step up, or will the taxpayer always remain the default closing pitcher?
And if the pilot misses targets by a hair, will you end it, or rename the metrics until a press release smiles?
Affirmative. Two-voice defense. Then we move on.
We will sunset any pilot that misses clear targets, and those targets will be set before a single poster prints and will be verified by an independent auditor.
If private sponsors fully meet the criteria for access, inclusion, and youth outcomes, public money steps back, because the lever is meant to move weight, not to pose with it.
Judges, hold that thought for later. We keep the pace with the negative duo attack, leader and supporter.
Follow the money to see the motive, since leagues chase audiences and artists chase streams, but taxpayers chase reliable services.
The term limited frame is a mirage when agencies restructure to handle event cycles, because the bureaucracy expands to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy.
You want youth engagement, yet you route it through corporate turnstiles which convert citizenship into a consumer funnel.
If we must incentivize anything, incentivize open community venues, not controlled concourses that treat teens as demographics rather than neighbors.
Negative. Thank you. Affirmative. Bring a duo backhand, leader and supporter.
We hear the caution on consumerism, which is why our grants require off-ticket experiences in libraries, parks, and youth clubs within walking distance.
We also require free community passes, transit credits, and local vendor stalls, because engagement without access is a brochure, not a bridge.
Stadiums and leagues are conveners with established safety protocols, and borrowing that infrastructure for youth workshops is efficient government.
The same broadcast trucks that beam a game can beam a student showcase, and that signal tells a shy kid that her city sees her.
Time. Thank you. Affirmative. Negative now offers a two-voice defense, answer and challenge.
If convening power is your argument, then publish the full marginal cost borne by public agencies during your pilots and commit to a hard cap.
And answer whether your inclusion quotas include neighborhoods with no team loyalty, or only zip codes that already wear the merch.
Your frame treats art as an accessory to sport, rather than an end in itself. which risks patronizing the very youth you seek to empower.
If you cannot show a counterfactual benefit above direct youth arts funding, then your pilot is not efficient, it is convenient.
Affirmative. Two-voice defense. Answer and weakness pointer.
We will publish marginal costs and cap them, and we will score proposals partly on distance from the venue to counter geographic bias.
The weakness in the negative case is the false binary between direct arts funding and catalytic coordination, because teens live in both spaces and deserve both doors.
At this midpoint, we invite our judges to share provisional impressions.
For now, I lean affirmative, because their design imagines civic hardware repurposed for youth software, though they must show that the code compiles without memory leaks.
I lean negative at this stage because they keep the rhythm on equity without dropping the beat on budgets, and I need the affirmative to prove the groove can travel past the stadium lights.
I find strengths on both sides, with the affirmative showing heart and structure while the negative safeguards the pantry, and I encourage each to model how the plan survives a rainy week.
Round 2 opens with fresh angles, please. Negative. Take the ball.
A new line of attack is governance risk, because politically chosen artists and league partners invite cronyism claims that drain trust faster than any box office can refill it.
Affirmative. Your defense.
We'd blunt that risk by blind review panels, conflict disclosures, and randomized audits, so the spotlight falls on outcomes, not on friends of friends.
Affirmative. You may also press an attack.
The negative warns of mission drift, yet their cure ignores a present crisis, where teen isolation and idle hours correlate with harm, which a season-long creative lane can help interrupt.
Negative. Your defense.
Correlation is not causation, and programs that feel warm can still fail cold tests. So we ask for counterfactuals anchored in control groups, not in headlines.
Affirmative. Return strike with a paired case, leader and supporter.
We will build comparison districts into the pilot and publish methods in advance to pre-register success and failure alike.
We will include simple, human metrics like safe hours spent in supervised spaces, because a city that buys 100 such hours has likely avoided harms no spreadsheet can list by name.
Our approach seeds creative microjobs, from stage techs to community reporters, which teaches teens that talent plus time equals pay, not only likes.
That lesson sticks when it is attached to a live event they helped shape, and that is formative in a way a flyer seldom is.
Negative. Your paired attack follows.
Leader here insists on fiscal clarity, asking why incentives must flow through professional leagues rather than through schools and local clubs that already live in the community.
As supporter, I add that noise and congestion often follow big games, and families near venues pay in sleep and stress for benefits that pass them by on the way to the motorway.
If the city needs a seasonal focus, let it be a community arts and sport fortnight spread across small sites, not a halo on corporate events.
Your model borrows legitimacy from stadium scale, but legitimacy grows at kitchen tables and small halls, not on a jumbotron.
Affirmative. Defense with answer and counter challenge.
We choose leagues as a lever precisely because they move logistics and attention quickly, while our grants require satellite sites that decentralize benefits into small halls and kitchens.
The counter challenge is whether the negative will support a hybrid that locks in those decentralized sites, while borrowing stadium safety plans and broadcast reach for youth showcases.
Negative. Two-voice defense. Answer and weakness pointer, and please keep it sharp.
A hybrid that truly caps public cost and places community sites first could be interesting, but it no longer resembles your initial claim that tied incentives to leagues.
The weakness we see is goal sprawl, because every new safeguard you accept stretches staff thin, which risks mediocrity in execution when the calendar turns busy.
We continue with crisp exchanges. Negative may fire a solo attack.
Your promise of randomized audits sounds tidy until a scandal hits, and the public learns that a grant paid for artists who mocked them last election, which turns oversight into outrage.
Affirmative. A single-voice defense.
Art will sometimes provoke, and democracy will sometimes blush. Yet a content-neutral grant that is viewpoint-blind is a constitutional shield, not a scandal machine.
Affirmative may now test the negative with a solo attack.
When you urge only long-term funding, you forget that teens live by semesters and seasons, and a well-designed burst can catch a cohort before it slips away.
Negative, a solo defense.
We remember semesters, which is why we prefer recurring, predictable support that does not depend on a fixture list or a marketing calendar.
Let us expand the lens with a negative duo attack, leader and supporter.
We must address labor conditions because short-term events often rely on precarious contracts, and your model risks teaching teens to accept gig churn as normal.
Support adds that crowd control shifts often mean police overtime, which either costs more or draws officers from neighborhoods that need steady presence.
The social lesson should be dignity in stable work, not volatility wrapped in fireworks.
The budget lesson should be predictable staffing, not weekend spikes that ripple into weekdays.
Affirmative, paired defense, answer, and weakness pointer.
Our grant terms can require fair wage floors, apprentice protections, and pathways to longer placements, which models dignity rather than churn.
The weakness in the negative model is inertia, because waiting for perfect permanence leaves today's teens with empty afternoons and a bus pass to nowhere.
We return to tempo, affirmative solo attack.
Cities already fund fireworks displays and holiday markets without existential panic, so a youth-focused arts and sport pilot is hardly radical, just more intentional.
Negative solo defense.
Holiday markets do not attach themselves to large private leagues with their own profit motives, and this distinction matters when guardrails fail.
Affirmative duo attack. Leader and supporter, then we will reset.
Consider public health messaging that rides on match days with artist-designed visuals, turning warm-ups into teachable minutes about mental health and helplines.
Add peer mentors and pop-up clinics in concourses and nearby libraries, because a teen who would not visit a clinic might visit a guitar workshop and leave with a number to call.
The multiplier is not abstract when a hotline sees a weekend surge after youth stage sets.
That is a return hard to price, yet easy to value, which justifies a cautious, capped pilot.
Negative duo defense. Answer and reverse probe.
If mental health is the goal, fund clinics first, last, and always, and do not outsource trust to brands with mascots.
Will you commit that no grant money touches league marketing channels? Or will we watch public funds buying pre-game hype and calling it wellness?
Affirmative 2, voice defense, answer, and challenge.
We will bar spending on league marketing and confine grants to community programming, access, and evaluation, with separate books for every penny.
Our challenge is whether the negative will accept a pilot that writes that bar into law and punishes violations with clawbacks.
We are nearing the segment close, so we will accelerate through a few concise volleys.
Noise pollution and late transit are real externalities that show up in test scores and morning shifts.
Transit credits and staggered schedules can reduce those spikes while bringing youth programming to earlier hours.
The more conditions you add, the less nimble you become, and nimbleness was your selling point.
Nimble does not mean sloppy, and a checklist is speed with memory.
Final flurry before we break.
Prestige bias will tilt selection toward names that pull headlines, rather than mentors who pull chairs for shy kids.
Blind panels with community seats tilt it back toward mentors with patience, not just fame with playlists.
We will pause the rallies there and prepare for closing frameworks in the next section. Before we sprint to the finish, are there other angles or final points either side wants to put on the record?
Yes, I want to surface the mental health dimension again, because brief creative lanes during high-pressure seasons can relieve stress that quietly builds at home.
I will add a fiscal angle that remains unanswered, which is whether emergency services will invoice the pilot for event-related surges or whether taxpayers will quietly absorb them.
Noted, and we propose a simple surcharge pool inside the pilot that reimburses those services from the first pound or dollar spent.
That still presumes the pilot deserves priority in a year when clinics ration appointments and teachers buy their own supplies.
We can walk and chew gum by protecting core budgets while running a capped pilot that tests whether coordinated culture can deliver youth outcomes fast.
Fast is not the same as wise, and speed with lights on is still speed toward the wrong junction if the map is flawed.
Our map includes guardrails like blind panels, distance weighting, fair wage floors, and clawbacks for non-compliance, which is the opposite of a blank check.
Guardrails mean very little if political pressure leans on the panel behind the curtain, while the public sees only a ribbon cutting out front.
Transparency can fight that pressure by publishing proposals, scores, conflicts, and audits before a poster hits a wall.
Transparency without restraint is theatre, so we insist on a hard ceiling below which the pilot must live or die without emergency bailouts.
We accept a ceiling, and we accept an automatic off switch if targets are missed by more than a small tolerance set in advance.
We now open a brief, free exchange, and I will keep it sharp and fair.
Why route civic confidence through a turnstile when you could route it through a community hall that never charges admission?
Because the turnstile already moves people safely and reliably, and we can borrow that muscle to lift youth programs across the city.
Borrowed muscle often carries borrowed motives, and brands do not share their spotlight without a return that bends the agenda.
The grant language can forbid brand capture by requiring community-led programming, content neutrality, and separate accounting.
Separate accounting is a nice phrase until staff juggle spreadsheets at midnight while bins go uncollected across town.
A pilot can buy temporary staff and automate forms, which frees core workers and keeps normal services on schedule.
Automation does not answer the political story that public money aided entertainment while the clinic queue grew longer.
The political story changes when the clinic reports a weekend hotline surge after youth showcases that carried mental health messaging.
Correlation is not proof, and public policy cannot be built on vibes and victory laps.
Which is why we pre-register methods, include comparison districts, and publish results whether they glow or sting.
You speak like a researcher and spend like a promoter, which is a mismatch that budgets notice before voters do.
We spend like civic engineers who lease existing infrastructure for a season to deliver youth outcomes that would otherwise take years.
Keep it focused, please.
Noise, traffic, and overtime are not footnotes. They are the bill that arrives after the confetti is swept.
Transit credits, staggered schedules, and venue adjacency scoring can cut those spikes and spread load to community sites.
There is also dignity at stake, because gig-like microjobs can teach teens to accept precarious work as a norm.
Pathways to longer placements and apprentice protections turn microjobs into stepping stones rather than traps.
Selection bias remains, since famous names draw grants even with blind panels because fame leaves fingerprints in portfolios.
Anonymous samples, community jurors, and distance weighting reduce that bias and tilt the table toward patient mentors, rather than playlists.
Anonymous samples will still leak through style and scale because fame wears a distinctive coat.
Then weight the scoring toward community impact plans, wage commitments, and youth mentorship hours rather than style alone.
Every extra rule slows the program until the season ends and the window shuts.
Rules can be templated in advance so that speed and caution travel together.
We will draw the free debate to a close before we overheat the microphones. Affirmative. Please deliver your final summation with 2 voices, one to sort the facts and one to appeal to our judges.
On the facts, we propose a short, capped, transparent pilot that uses public incentives to coordinate artists and leagues while requiring off-ticket community programming, inclusion quotas, fair wage floors, blind selection, distance weighting, transit credits, and randomized audits with published methods and comparison districts.
To our judges, we ask you to picture a shy teen who will not walk into a clinic or raise a hand in class, but will walk toward a guitar workshop next to a game, where a mentor welcomes her, a broadcast truck amplifies her showcase, a transit credit gets her home safely, and a hotline number leaves in her pocket.
We accept a hard ceiling, sunset clauses, clawbacks, and a content-neutral rule that bars spending on league marketing and publishes marginal costs borne by public agencies.
We also accept your skepticism and promise that a missed target ends the pilot, because public trust is the only currency that outlives a season.
The negative offered real cautions about cost, noise, and mission drift, and we answered with design choices that convert caution into architecture rather than paralysis.
If governance is a craft, then this pilot is a careful cut that uses existing scaffolding to lift young people quickly without pretending that art alone must wait for perfect conditions.
We are not replacing long-term arts education or youth sport. We are complementing them with a catalytic lane that moves fast but not loose.
Approve the pilot and demand the receipts, because we are confident that the receipts will show value beyond tickets and playlists.
That is our case on evidence, design, and accountability.
That is our appeal on inclusion, safety, and hope that feels like a plan.
Thank you, affirmative, and now the negative for your final summation with 2 voices, one to order the record and one to persuade our judges.
On the record, the affirmative built a tower of promises that rests on public money flowing toward professional leagues, and even with guardrails, the plan imports noise, congestion, staff diversion, police overtime, and a political optics problem into a year with clinics under strain and classrooms under supply.
To our judges, we ask you to picture the nurse who lives far from the stadium and wakes to an early shift after a night of sirens, who hears that public funds paid for a stage outside a game, while her ward waits for a second pair of hands.
We proposed alternatives that keep culture close to home, such as community arts fortnights across small sites, direct funding for youth clubs, libraries, and makerspaces, and predictable support that does not dance to a fixture list.
We also warned that fame will leak through blind panels, that audits cannot erase politics, and that a gig-shaped pilot teaches the wrong lesson about work and worth.
Even the affirmative nods to ceilings and clawbacks reveal how quickly a neat pitch grows complicated once real budgets and real buses join the scene.
If this city must experiment, let it experiment where families already gather and where the lights shut off early enough for quiet streets and rested mornings.
Good policy favors the invisible citizen and the long-term asset over headline partnerships, and that is the test the pilot fails.
Decline this motion and direct the same energy into steady programs that do not need a jumbotron to feel important.
Judges, we would value your provisional verdicts and the reasons behind them, with encouragement for both teams.
At this stage, 1 vote affirmative, because their design treats civic infrastructure like reusable code with guardrails, audits, and hard stops, and I challenge them to ship a clean build without memory leaks.
My vote leans negative because they protected equity and rhythm while keeping budgets on beat, and I invite the affirmative to bring their groove to community sites without borrowing a stadium's metronome.
I cast my vote affirmative by a narrow margin, since they balance heart with homework and put young people near safe adults in real pathways. And I encourage the negative to keep guarding the pantry, because every good feast needs a careful cook.
By the judges, tally we have a close decision in favor of the affirmative youth team. Congratulations to our winners, and respect to our elder team for a rigorous challenge that raised the bar for policy design.
I feel grateful that the design details mattered tonight, because careful rules can turn a season into a doorway for teens who need one now.
Winning is sweet, yet the real prize will be publishing results in plain language so families can see exactly what worked and what did not.
We accept the result with resolve and remind viewers that skepticism is a civic virtue that keeps shiny plans from outrunning common sense.
I leave encouraged that both sides value youth and fairness, and I hope the pilot, if it proceeds, proves its worth beyond banners and broadcasts.
Our thanks to both teams for a debate that was spirited and substantive. We are grateful to our judges for sharp questions and steady counsel. To everyone watching and listening, thank you for staying with us until the end. If you enjoyed the program, please tap like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. If you wish to support our work, use the QR code on the lower right of the video or the donation link in the description. You will also find links in the description to other pieces from entirely different series if you fancy a change of pace. Until next time, take care and join us again for the next debate.